Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I have my coffee, I have my books and my reviews. No rain, but we have really fantastic fall weather right now, and I am so very excited. I broke out my sweatshirt because I just felt like it. The weather doesn't really call for it right now, but it's getting me in the mood for the fall season. And I've got my spooky killer coffee. So, we've got, what do we got? Michael and Freddy. Oh, wait, I made that Jason. That's Jason, and that's Freddy. And then that's the Scream Mask guy. Ghostface? I think it's Ghostface. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about books. And this book that I have for you guys right now is not scary, but it's fun. And this is a big problem on my part because I like this author and I like these books, and I have fallen off the wagon of reading them in order. But I definitely read the first one, and I'm going to read this one, which is apparently the ninth one in the series, but it's A Gargoyle's Guide to Murder, an Accidental Alchemist Mystery by Gigi Pandian. And it is approximately 320 pages in paperback, and its expected publication of October 7th, 2025. Now, like I said, it is number 9, and I read number 1 a little while ago, and now I read number 9. I still understand what's going on, but apparently there's been a lot of things happening in this particular world. I do feel as though they can be read independently because I do feel each book gives me enough information to know what's going on, but it probably would have been way better on my part if I had actually read the other, 7 in the middle. That's my bad. But let us dive into this particular summary and we'll see what we think. A vanishing body, a deadly bookshop, a country house party full of suspects. Can a living gargoyle and an alchemist decipher the clues before poisoned pages claim another victim? Dorian Robert Houdin is used to living his life in the shadows, his existence only known to a few trusted friends. When a dangerous book from his past resurfaces, he follows his closest confidant, alchemist Zoe Faust, from Oregon to England to investigate. Before he can examine the magical book, Dorian witnesses a murder amidst the foggy lanes of Oxford. But when he takes Zoe to... I think my puppy's either fussing or sleeping. I just hear a little... He can't need to go outside. So sorry. He distracted me. But when he takes Zoe to the scene, there's no body, and no evidence of a crime has taken place. Using his unique skills as a gargoyle, Dorian sets out to solve the baffling crime nobody else believes occurred. But when Dorian and Zoe discover a dead man in a bookshop filled with arsenic-laced books, the victim isn't a stranger. He's connected to the vanishing crime scene. The trail leads to a country house party where a group of bibliophiles suspects have gathered and a storm is brewing. Could the killer be the mercurial Agatha Christie scholar, the prickly literature professor, the secretive rare books expert? With an unscrupulous book thief lurking, can sleuths Dorian and Zoe unmask a murderer before the next page brings them to a perilous end? Perfect for fans of the quirky charm and found family of Only Murders in the Building and books by Ellery Adams and Travis Baldree. Don't miss the new novel in the award-winning cozy fantasy series from author Gigi Pandian. So, again, my bad for not having read the ones number 2 through 8. That's my fault. I can't believe there's so many, but I can, because the stories are fun. Zoe is like a 300 plus year old alchemist. She was able to, when she was about, I think, somewhere around 27, she discovered the pretty much philosopher's stone or sorcerer's stone, however you want to phrase it. And she was able to pretty much make herself immortal. Now, she eats a fairly vegan lifestyle and she tries to keep herself healthy, avoiding caffeine and all this sort of stuff. And this is just her lifestyle. But the great thing that I did notice in the first book was that it has recipes at the end. And honestly, some of those recipes sounded decadent. I want to say there might have been like a cake or something. But anyway, this is the type of cozy mystery that tends to have like recipes in the back of the book if they mention food that's being made. So, because I still only had the ebook, I'm not 100% certain if there's going to be any of that, but there you go. Just wanted to let you know. At least with the first one, there certainly was. I was trying to think if I had the physical copy, but somewhere in my brain it tells me that I may have lent it out to someone. So I apologize for that. Now, I do see that this other individual is Jess A. She requested it from NetGalley. She had no idea that it was book 9 and that she worried she might not be able to follow it very well. And I only say this because as someone who has read the first book and then jumped to the 9th by accident, I have to agree with her that it, I was able to follow along just fine from reading the first one to now. Now, this person does actually say it was a fun read and it introduced her to a new series. And so now she's going to have books 1 and 2 in the queue. But apparently she was able to pretty well understand what was going on. But to clarify things about whatever happened in the past and to kind of reach where we are now, she's gone ahead and I guess, acquired books 1 and 2 on the series. So I do highly recommend it. Well, by this particular point, Zoe is engaged to Max. And so if you haven't read books 1 through 8, that may be a bit of a spoiler, but we've had 8 books. And I do remember meeting Max in the first book. So he's not a new familiar or an unfamiliar character for me. But we have Zoe and Dorian, who are pretty much the main character in this particular book, and they have traveled to Hold please, my puppy is just a fussin'. So sorry, Argos was making a fuss, and I think it was because Leo had a treat that Argos wanted. Anyway, they're going to be fine now, I do believe. Back to Zoe and Dorian and Zoe. So, one particular evening, while Dorian is out in Oxford, as he does lurk in shadows, he is a gargoyle, he witnesses what he believes is a crime of someone strangling someone else. He then sees the body fall to the ground, and he says he clearly sees the person's face as they leave. Well, once he goes and gets Zoe and brings her back to this particular location, the door is ajar, but there's no body. And so Zoe, she's like, oh, it was probably a prank. Oh, it was probably, freshmen getting ready for college, because this building that they're in is potentially a dorm for incoming students. So she's like, oh no, it was probably just a prank. They were probably doing something that maybe looked sinister, but it was probably really nothing. And Dorian's like, no, because he's a Frenchman, and he does say a lot of little phrases in French, which I say it in my head because I do think I had the first book in audiobook. That's what it was. And I think I remember it having like a recipe, and I wanted to go find the physical copy so I could actually try to create this cake. Anyway, back to the book. The Dorian's like, no, it's definitely a crime. I remember the man's face. It was evil. And Zoe's like, oh, evil, huh? But they are in this particular area because they are looking for Non-Degenerate Alchemy or something of that nature, which is an alchemist book that has awoken Dorian, that has given him life. And they are looking for the book because they feel as though they need it for Dorian to keep existing the way he does. Well, they have followed it across the pond because I do think at one point Zoe had it, but she doesn't have it anymore. And the library it was supposed to be in says that it has been taken out of circulation due to it being poison. And she's like, what, poison? Well, apparently, I don't know how common it was, but some books, they were, their covers had like arsenic in them. And so there's like this arsenic green or something of that nature. So sometimes overhandling these particular books could, I guess, slowly poison someone over time. Well, a book collector has gotten his hands on this book. He is apparently someone who collects poison books, and he puts them in a case. So she's able to track him down through like going to the library, and then she goes to who she thinks she's Mr. Thistlewhite. I think it's like Thistlewhite, but he's like a professor, and he kind of starts like kind of railing at her because he is apparently like an old curmudgeonly guy. And so the secretary outside, she's like, it's not that guy, you want his son. His son is the one who owns a bookshop and also collects the poison books. And it's this particular girl who I believe is the Agatha Christie fan or aficionado, who also dresses like she is kind of from another time. So anyway, we're starting to build our cast of characters at this particular point. We're encountering various people. Zoe does go to the bookshop and does discover that Barney does have this book, and she sees like what he's talking about, that this book that was left, or that was, I guess, brought to him, or however he received it, was taken out of circulation because supposedly he was told the book is dying. And so Zoe's very confused because she's like, well, it's a book. How is that happening? But she kind of does have a little bit of understanding based on, again, some of the previous books that are in the series. And so we come to learn that potentially the person that the book was attached to, perhaps leeching life from, has passed. And so I guess the book is potentially dying because it's not drawing energy from anyone anymore. And so its source of energy is dead. So anyway, she talks to Barney, and Barney's like, okay, well, she wants to buy it. He says, I want you to have the letter that was given to me of how to care for this book before I turn it over to you, because apparently it needs some level of care. And so he doesn't want to turn it over yet until he's able to get her all of the information that he had as well. And he is surprised that she knows about this book because he was not aware that it was stolen from her. He said he did look online, or I guess there's like some sort of database for lost books or stolen books. It wasn't listed, so he went ahead and he believed the person who asked him to hold it in his care. And so he's like, okay, fine. He didn't think it was stolen, but then Zoe shows up kind of claiming ownership. And so he seems to be on the fence about giving it to her, but maybe not too hesitant. Well, Max does show up, and they're supposed to go on. It's not a honeymoon. It's just more like a romantic getaway. That seems to turn into a book-related mystery. But we do still have Dorian's murder that we're trying to figure out as well, because as things continue forward and they go back to the bookshop to talk to Barney again and potentially get this book, and Dorian's in a rolling suitcase, by the way, because how else do you sneak gargoyles around Oxford? I mean, in a suitcase, of course. There is a body in the bookstore, and it seems to have a lot of paper cuts on its hands and no other wound signs. And it is the body of the man who supposedly Dorian saw kill the other man. So now what's going on? But anyway, from there, the book just continues to really gain some traction. I like the way Gigi Pandian weaves in the alchemy and the fantasy and the magical into settings like Oxford and Paris and, I mean, yeah, Oregon, because I know the first couple of books do take place in Oregon, and I want to say we may have at once traveled to Paris. I'm not 100%, but I feel like it definitely happened. There are the cliffhanger style endings to the chapters that encourage you to keep reading to the next, like through the next chapter, to find out what happened next. And I don't know. I guess I have not really encountered a book series again, cozy book series. You're gonna have something like a duo. We've got Zoe and Dorian in this particular one. I just did a review for a book called The Armchair Detectives, which also mentioned being for fans of Only Murders in the Building. And this one also is recommended for fans of Only Murders in the Building. So there is at least a common thread of cozy mystery mixed with a bit of fun and whimsy. And so I do enjoy that a lot. I like how this particular individual, the Avid Reader, says that they love hanging out with Zoe and her Scooby Gang, watching their antics, trying and failing to solve the mysteries before they do, while failing for some of the falling for some of the misdirections and misleading suspicions. So that's a pretty apt description of kind of what's going on. And I hate to say it's a Scooby adventure, but a little bit. I mean, you don't have the full Scooby Gang, but you do end up getting a little cast of characters that runs around trying to solve the mystery and figure things out. I like Dorian because, of course, he's got to stay hidden, but like I haven't run across too many gargoyles helping solve mysteries lately. I think the last gargoyles was either the cartoon animated series of the gargoyles or like Hunchback of Notre Dame and those three gargoyles. So I don't think they get enough credit or get used as characters nearly enough. I think they're fun. But if you're looking for something with just a little bit of supernatural, a little bit of kind of magic and alchemy, then I definitely think this is a good series to try. I really have to go back and read the rest of these books. They don't take much time. I know the first book, I honestly think I may have gotten it on Audible for free at one point. It may have been part of like I may have had Audible Premium, so there's like always a list of like books you can like read for free, and I think that this might have been one of them. And then the other ones I was going to have to use credits on, so I kind of put them on my to be read list and honestly ended up getting other books instead. But that is my fault once again. But I wanted to put this one out there because if you're looking for like that cozy mystery, if that is something up your alley, then this is definitely a series worth the opportunity or worth the chance to like give a go, because there are 9 currently available and they're all pretty good. They are all like, I did a little review, clicked on the author to see the books in the series, and it does look like almost all of the books in the series, all 9 of them, have an average of 4 stars or more. So it seems to be a pretty popular series. I do still wonder if those recipes are in the back of the book, and I hope they are, because that was one of my favorite parts as well. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. I am going to let you guys decide if this is something that you want to read, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.